Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Oaxaca, the show of pozole, verde, and so much more. You know, a lot of times before I have these mezcal tastings at the house, it's been quite nice to unite the community here in Austin, Texas. But I do some interviews before, kind of get us riled up before we drink some mezcal and teach. And I had some years ago interviewed Niki Nakazawa from NETA on Instagram Live. I had met her previous to that, but I never had a chance to sit down and actually interview her, right? And so finally, her first time in Austin, first time at my place before a tasting, we sit down and talk about how she's doing, how NETA is doing. And just before, we had an amazing turnout trying this tobala from NETA, this cucharia. It did such amazing marks. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this chat with Niki Nakazawa from NETA Spirits. I don't know, Niki, do you realize you have a following to some extent? Have you ever thought about that?
Not really. That's cool.
It's cool, man. Once I announced it, because I've done tastings at the house for years, some of our friends, Jason Cox is in town, Reed Spear from Quinta Quinta is a good mate of mine, and those took some time. This didn't take but an hour to okay, no more people can come, it was a really, really interesting thing. How was Chicago?
Chicago is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super intense, but really good.
Intense schedule-wise or intense people?
Intense schedule-wise. So just a few days where I was kind of talking nonstop for, 8 to 10 hours. And so by the end of the day, it was nonverbal. I think I left my phone in various places at least twice. So, I was kind of in a state of
Do you like that? Do you because it's not like you have to be on stage, I'd use air quotes, all the time. But when you got to be on and you're just jet setting for because this is the second week. Territory, right? Do you like that part of it? Because a lot of it's out with the producers, the palenques, but then the other half is you're kind of the face at some point too, right?
Yeah. Do I like it?
Yeah.
I like teaching, and I like, talking to people who care. I don't like the kind of door-to-door salesman part.
Yeah.
But it's part of it. And then sometimes you're surprised, and in good ways.
Yes.
And sometimes surprised in bad ways too.
Yeah, I think it's an 80-20 split, 80% good.
80% good. I would say even for me, it's really been 90% good, and then there's a smaller percentage where you're really why are you being such a dick? I'm here to teach you stuff.
Oh my God.
And pour some really beautiful things, and I'm,
met with resistance and questions. I asked this because I interview a lot of people in the field of whiskey too. I love women, and I have different upbringing with a single mom and stuff, and so I'll do whatever I can. Not that you'll need my help, but I'll do whatever I can to put the women that I think are the smartest ones. I want them to have the jobs. I want them to be the ones educating. In the world of mezcal, it feels a little bit different than whiskey. Do you feel like there's any kind of sexism against women as brand ambassadors that isn't just implicit already?
I don't know. I don't know the world of whiskey. I think that there's sexism in every field. So you're met with it in different ways. Sometimes it's more subtle than in other moments. But yeah, certainly sexism is everywhere.
It is everywhere. Actually, as I look at some of my pictures on this wall. Oh, it's mostly booze, though. Let's be honest. It's mostly vintage. But you got Orson Welles over there. I don't know if he was a noted sexist, but noted drunk for sure. Orson Welles certainly noted drunk. I was thinking about the last time that we talked, actually, which was during shutdown. where everybody was kind of shifting and figuring out how to stay connected, how to keep brands going, all of this. And, one, I'm real proud that we brought a batch of NETA to Texas. I'm glad that I got to, with Max, visit Don Celso. Amazing kind of 360, or 180 of the whole thing. But I realized I changed a lot in good ways, That the shutdown made me realize a lot about myself. So as you had shut down just like anywhere else, were there any things now, I can't say it's over a year at least, maybe. Is there anything that you coming out of that shut down in this moment now, maybe lately, that you realized had changed within you?
Yeah, I think that a big part of the pandemic and the shutdown for me was shifting from thinking that I wanted to spend more time or be back in Mexico City, to really embracing a life in Oaxaca and the slowness.
Yeah.
Developing a deeper relationship to my surroundings, to nature, to myself. Being able to spend more time with myself. So I think that those are all things that really shifted, and I guess I didn't quite notice how profound those shifts were until maybe even quite recently. So
it is like that, isn't it? You start interacting with people different because maybe your lens is different now. You see things with a different hue as part of this more connecting with nature. Obviously, once you get just out of Centro, it's quite peaceful and quiet, and the plants talk. I'm very convinced they do.
Oh, definitely.
They talk to us, But is meditation a piece of this equation for you? I know a lot of friends of mine have kind of taken it up in the wake of very, very busy schedules and the noise of the world.
Meditation is definitely a part of my practice. And then just spending time in different landscapes in Oaxaca, and those relationships have deepened. So, because I get to spend more time in those places and and see and experience how connected we are. So
NETA seems to be doing quite well. You coming into town to do a tasting with me and most of the folks from a group that's on Facebook, which is really, as you'll see tonight, it's very promising. It's very encouraging because it's positive and people aren't judged. And I actually want to share this with you before I ask you how NETA is doing these days, but I had a tasting a couple weeks ago with a mate of mine from Orajin Raiz, Cameron, and a guy who was new to the group and knew I'd never seen him at a tasting before, whether in the classroom or at my house. And he looked at me and he said, "Why do you do this?" And I looked at him and I had what the hell are you talking? What do you mean? Why do I do this? And he said, "Well, but why?" And I said, "Well, because mezcal must be enjoyed together. It's a community." And he told me, he said, I'd been part of the whiskey world for ages and no one ever invited me into their home. And that's the difference, right? And so that's why it's so good to have you in town and why I'm so happy that people were excited about that, though. How's it been? Has it been quite busy, I would imagine? Now everybody feels like, I guess, like no one's looking over their shoulder anymore. We're kind of moving forward, united, and business has been good?
Yeah, the visits have been good. I think that part of the pandemic, what that did was it slowed the rate of growth in some ways. It also made it so that there was a lot of visits that we were not able to do. So in some ways, I feel like I'm playing catch up. Texas being such an important market for agave and an important home to agave nerds like yourself the agave community. It's weird that this is the first time I'm coming. Like, this is the first time I'm in Austin. It's the first time.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, I've never, I didn't really step out today because it was rainy and gross out. But yeah, I mean,
we have to pick an intro song for you then. This is like we're like unleashing Nikki upon Austin.
This is my coming out party.
Wow.
So
okay.
I hadn't been to market in Texas, so this is first, and then also hadn't been in Chicago. So, we've really been just in New York, California, and, New Mexico, because that's where Max is from. And then last year I did a little work in some of the Southeast. So went to Atlanta. But yeah, things are going well. I think that there's still a lot of room for us to grow. I think that sometimes, there's an idea of, how the brand's doing and what's going on because of, the amount of content that comes out or reviewers and all these things. But I mean, really, we're still talking about a very small amount of bottles.
This is not 1,000 liters of anything.
No. So, it's still pretty modest, and we are trying to grow, and we are trying to especially kind of branch out and find home in Texas and Illinois and some other spots where there are communities.
That's right.
Of people who love agave.
And they'll embrace it.
Yeah, and who embrace it and who want to talk about it and who want to share it. And that's, really important for us to reflect the values and the cultural space in which mezcal is produced in the markets. So wherever there's community, it's great.
Well, yeah, it's organic growth. That's kind of how I find it's hard to get organic growth in other categories, I think. Rum, maybe, but it's still so small. Brandy's not a thing,
Yeah.
Bourbon's weird because it's pay to play in a lot of ways. And so I think that's why mezcal, and actually I would go as far to say the only way that it truly can be enjoyed is with the community.
Yeah.
When's the last time you drank alone at a palenque?
Yeah, no, never.
Never, right? It's an amazing thing. When you're traveling around more now, I feel like mezcal knowledge, to some extent, has gotten a lot better among just people generally speaking. Are you seeing less challenges or less gaps in knowledge now as you kind of talk to people, or is it the same as it was maybe 2-3 years ago?
Again, I don't really know how to measure it because we haven't been in the market that much. And then there was a big gap over the pandemic, and, you just see what people are writing in forums and stuff. I think what we're seeing is a lot more people coming to Oaxaca. So I think that helps fill in some of the gaps. But even so, people continue to spread around misinformation So I think that there's still a lot of bad information out there. There's still a lot of, surprisingly, like so many bad articles about mezcal where I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this based in? Like, what research is this? So
it's AI driven. That's how I'm convinced now. It's Chat GPT like writing these articles.
Yeah, I mean, something. I don't know. It's very,
It's just like a little off base, right?
Well, it's not even a little off base. It's really off base. It's like, it's just like straight up wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that I still find people who come to the spirit or come to, what we're pouring with a very clear sense in their minds of what it should taste like or what it's going to taste like without being open to experiencing it. And and I think that, marketing and brands still make a big splash in people's minds. And
it does. And, I was talking about Chopped, which I explained what Chopped was to you, but maybe some other people listening might know it. I like the show and I like cooking. But today I saw an ingredient that I never thought I would see on Chopped. And I saw sal de gusano in the dessert round. And I was like, has Oaxaca made it now? Because this week, coincidentally, which we're just starting off, it's only Tuesday, I'd seen already a few comments from people saying Oaxaca's changed. So many more people are coming here, which is that, at least the people coming there, that's certainly true. And then a couple of the folks, actually the whole staff from Roosevelt Room, a cocktail spot here in Austin, really lauded and awarded. They're out there right now. And when we're in Minas and stuff yesterday, and I don't live there, so I'm not worried about that, right? I'm not going to protect the place you live, right? Maybe Austin. But do you think, is Oaxaca really in threat of changing that much, to losing the vibe, losing the romance that it has, or at least that I remember it having?
I think that, yeah. I mean, I think that tourism is destructive in a lot of ways. And especially when there aren't policies to protect the folks who live there. So certainly what we're seeing is difficult. There is a evacuation of the downtown of the historic district of Oaxaca, and in the sense that there's less people who are able to live there, and there's more and more, businesses and restaurants. And so when folks don't live in the place anymore, then it becomes this like weird mall. And so,
right. Wow.
I think that Oaxaca, the state, is incredibly diverse, and there's so many things, including, the diversity of cultures and peoples, and also landscapes that act to protect the integrity of the place. But I think that the city, Oaxaca, Mexico City, cities are struggling in parts of the city. Not, and Oaxaca is just so small.
Yeah, right.
The city itself, the downtown part, of the historic center. So, I think it's definitely changed. I don't know what there is to do about it if the city government or the government in general doesn't do something to prevent rents from skyrocketing. And
same story here, honestly. Or in many.
It's a global phenomenon, I think, with Airbnb.
Sure.
We don't have Uber, but Airbnb certainly has destroyed many cities. So
there's a longer conversation to be had about that. I mean, I can be on the one side of it because I don't own any property. So but I never thought of owning something I never thought of owning a place to make money off of it. That never occurred to me. Making art to maybe enrich myself financially that I made, that's different to me. So I don't know. But actually that kind of brings up a question, because I don't know this about you, but I know you went to school with a mate of mine, Drew, who was a massive agave fan, Drew Jordan, in Chicago. And you are and I hate to make this binary, but if these two options aren't good, tell me a third one. But you are an artist, or are you a philosopher?
I am me. I mean, I don't know. I just no. I don't really know whether I identify with either of those things. I mean,
You draw. I know you're a writer, and I know you've done events and curated wine tasting, a lot of tastings. Do you write? Do you paint? Do you sing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do. I've done a bunch of different things over the course of my career, which have, included promoting music, making music, curating art shows, not making art so much these days, or, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And then, doing some writing, but yeah, it's been encompassed a lot of different creative fields.
Does mezcal, the category of it, the place of it in Oaxaca, does that feel like the convergence of all of the passions that you had separately into one thing?
Yeah, I think that definitely mezcal encompasses a lot of my interests and joins together, things like my passion and interest in history and culture and biology, biodiversity, ecology. So yeah,
it happens like that. It's kind of weird how maybe at first it seems a little more demure, like it's just, well, this is a spirit and I like drinking it because I like the way it makes me feel. But then you're like, but it makes me feel like I'm somewhere else. And then you go, right? Like,
yeah, I think that for me it really didn't start through drinking it necessarily. It was like I was working with farmers. So, when I started, I had this pop-up in Mexico City. And so we were cooking and producing and sourcing from local farmers. And so, part of it was drinking it. And it's obviously sublime spirits that are coming from Logoche. But it was also just meeting the producers and also understanding and stepping into a really different way of thinking about the landscape, about work, about life. And so I think that was, what really was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was compelling.
Compelling at the very least.
Yeah.
Kind of life-changing, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
So given metropolitan living that you might have done in Mexico City, and then what might be more agrarian living in Oaxaca, not that I think you live
I live in
downtown.
the city.
Yeah. But knowing that those two tempos exist, do you need both to have balance, or does one ring a little more important to you than the other?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think that I am somebody who has been raised in urban environments and calibrated to an urban tempo, right? And I think that what happened over the pandemic was that in some ways I shifted tempos or something.
I see.
And so now I find myself, enjoying the forays into the city and the time spent in cities, but I really miss not being there.
Oh,
really miss landscapes. I really miss places. I really miss Logoche. I really miss like dirt, like literally dirt. Like just like and like rocks and certain landscapes, but like I have a special kind of affinity for mountains and minerals. And so I think it definitely, for me now, it's really shifted. And I didn't foresee that really, but that's where I'm at today.
Does it also kind of like when Homer Simpson sits on the butterfly in the past and it changes the future forever kind of thing? What is that? There's a Ray Bradbury story, something about a butterfly. Butterfly Effect is another movie. Anyway, I'm getting to it. The sound in that's William Faulkner. Anyway, sorry, that's not the point. The point is, now that maybe you're letting and desiring more quiet into your life, does that then kind of change the trajectory of other things that you thought you wanted to do as you got older? Or does it even take that much of a toll on what might be your future?
I don't know. I don't know whether I had really thought that far ahead. Honestly.
I don't. By making another year, we're in good shape.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think so. I think that, for it's been a long time that I kind of decided that I was going to always be in Mexico. I mean, obviously things could shift, but I'm certainly not planning on moving back to the States ever. So.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Everybody better get that in their head right now. Niki is not moving back to the States.
It's been almost 16 years in Mexico. So I think that, there was maybe a point where I was like, oh, maybe I'll, move to New York, or I'll be in LA, or I'll be somewhere. Now it's like, really, no.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to know. It's like a boundary almost, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, nah, States, nah. How long did it take to get all formalized and get, I don't know if it's a permanent visa or what they might call it there, but how long did that process take?
It didn't take long. I got my first visa after a year. So
that's not too bad. Is it a renewal thing every?
Yeah, I mean, initially you have to renew it every year, and then after 5 years, then you can get a permanent residency. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And I've never asked this. You don't have to answer this, but it's not. I'm one that my family exists. I have a very small family. I like 3 people in my family.
Yeah.
My kids are the things that I create. They're the products. It's all those sotol plants in my driveway, like the things that become something. That's what I take pleasure in. But the concept of starting a family or anything? Is that something that interests you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have maternal instincts? Because
I
don't have maternal instincts at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, to nurture for sure.
That's great. So, a couple questions left for you, because I just really wanted to catch up, and I wanted people to hear your voice before we go. Like, this is, in the green room before you go out and, like, perform on stage there.
Oh, my God.
Something like that. Bottled water, a lot of mezcal and all of that. But do you think mezcal is that... I know there's a human risk, of course, exploiting mezcaleros, exploiting the land. Do you think that there's been irreparable damage given the growth of mezcal, that it can't return to what it might have been, I don't know, let's say 7 years ago, which was something as a little less over harvesting, a little less toll on the land?
I don't think we're at a point where it's like, the tipping point quite yet. Again, I really, really sometimes I have a hard time answering this question because the way that we work is so
it's different.
Yeah. And sure. I don't know a lot about what these other players are doing. And I don't work in an area where you really see the ecological impact of what they're doing because we're far out in Mihuatlan. And so I see other things. Yeah. I think that, climate change is bigger. I mean, right, I don't know. Right. Like, I just, I don't know, really.
I think that I have the privilege of being able to zoom out a little bit because of all the brands I work with and the people. And how about this though? Here's another way to put it. Even outside of mezcal, it feels like people want to just complain about shit a little bit more now. Does that seem true?
Again, I really don't know. Like, I don't know. I exist. Like, I'm in Oaxaca. I'm like in the community, and I'm in my office.
This is true.
It's like Jason and I share an office, as you know. So we, we'll complain to each other about other things, but it's like, we're just kind of like going and doing our thing. So I don't really, we.
In the States, we really make a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in community with, I think a lot of other really amazing brands and makers, mezcaleros. And I think that, the things that we're concerned about or things that we share about are like a little bit different maybe. So,
There's one truth that I know about Oaxaca, and that it's hard to date there. Now, I think that I've heard that, I've heard that from a lot of people. Haven't obviously done that because I never lived down there. But so I got one question left for you. And I was just curious how you would answer this. So let's say I love Don Celso's Pulquero. It's one of my favorite things of all time. And if you could drink that with any artist, living or deceased, who might you drink that with?
I'm just going to say the first person who comes to mind because they were a real mentor of mine in college, and they passed away just a little over a year ago. So I would say my ex-professor, Lauren Berlant, who was a brilliant, brilliant thinker and whose newest book came out posthumously just recently. So it's called On the Inconvenience of Other People.
Oh,
and
good read?
I just picked it up when I was in Chicago. They were my professor at the University of Chicago. And so I was staying with friends on the South Side, and I went to the seminary co-op bookshop, and I picked up their book, and that's why they're on my mind, and did a little, walk around campus and was
reminiscing.
Yeah, reminiscing. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will be a great memory that we're building tonight. Like I said, full house. We'll see if everybody can fit in here. Turn them away at the door or something. No, I'm kidding. So it's going to be great. We got 6 mezcales, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this. It felt rushed, but now it doesn't feel rushed. Now we're going to go in the kitchen, and we're going to chop up some cilantro and cook some pozole.
Sounds great.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Niki. Talk
Thanks.
soon. Well, there we have it. Niki Nakazawa from NETA Spirits. I love her and Max, the things that NETA is doing out there in Logoche. I remember the day that I spent, the day trip, if you will, out to Logoche, sipping mezcales, looking at all the different agave. It's just beautiful, and it's different than what I thought it would be. And I'm still rendered relatively jealous because we don't have that kind of agave here in Texas. I'm trying my best to grow it out here in North Texas, but it's a beautiful place, beautiful people, and incredible spirits. So Niki, thanks for sitting down and chatting with me. And Max, I hope I get to sit down and chat with you in person sometime soon. So I'm going to be heading to Tucson here at the end of April for the Agave Heritage Festival. Going to be facilitating a tasting of spirits made in the United States, Sotol and Agave both. I hope to see you out there. Last year, there's a little bit of antics. This year, I hope it's more connective, and I can't wait to see all you folks out there. Emma Jansen, Chad Fetko, a lot of great folks. So, thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how much you're enjoying this Kitchen Commando show with Chef Rush, or if you're thinking, I'm going to go see Air here in a few minutes, I hope Ben Affleck didn't screw it up, please keep dancing.